I always wondered if it's necessary for me to get out of my comfort zone and do things that make me feel a little uncomfortable or do things that really challenge me or challenges me to do things that I normally wouldn't do. And from my time of doing like some of these challenges or putting myself in situations where it's a bit uncomfortable, I feel like overall it has been very beneficial for me to put myself out of the comfort zone and challenge myself to do things that I normally wouldn't do if I just wanted to stay in my comfortable space. And as you guys already know, like in my previous videos, like the 30-day challenges or climbing Mount Fuji or doing the jiu-jitsu for a period of time and posting that on my content, those are definitely ways that I definitely push myself, challenge myself, and do things that are a bit uncomfortable for the average person. And I did it because it is uncomfortable. It is hard. And just being in the easy lane or just being in that comfortable place, it could just feel like I'm being stagnant. Like when I don't challenge myself and when I don't push myself and when things are too easy, then I just feel like, from my own standpoint as an individual, like I don't grow as a person. And every time I did challenge myself or I do things that are a bit uncomfortable and getting out of my comfort zone, like I feel like I really benefit out of it and I grew as a person because I was able to challenge myself, because I was able to do things that maybe I didn't think I was capable of doing. And so you just kind of like discover more about yourself, about your potential and your capabilities. And so I would say like a prime example, as you guys already know, is me moving to Japan, living in a foreign country and trying to learn an entirely new language that I was not familiar with, or I was not at least learning in my previous years before moving here. And I knew it was going to be a huge challenge living here. I knew there might be a little bit of a culture shock. I knew there would be some adjustments and there'll be a language barrier coming here. But that was something I was ready to take forward, like take the challenge of just being in that uncomfortable zone. And so just focusing on this example of me living in Japan, it has been challenging. It hasn't been easy, especially with the communication aspect. And you guys already know how far my Japanese has developed. You come here with very little knowledge of the language, and you know like very basic words, maybe like 10 to 20 words in Japanese, and you can't really construct sentences. So how do you ask for help when something goes wrong? Like, and that's, or how do you even like order food when you need to go to a counter and you know just order a meal for yourself? And so that's been tough. That's been a lot of trial and error, and some interactions, like it has been very awkward and very uncomfortable, because sometimes they ask me a question and I'm just staring at them, and maybe for like a good 3 to 5 seconds, trying to process what they just said. And a lot of times I don't understand what they say. And, but, they're trying to work with me. I'm trying to communicate. I'm trying to do hand motions or body language and a little bit of broken English and a broken Japanese to communicate. And it is hard because sometimes you get these awkward looks and they're just looking at you like, what's wrong with this guy? So that's always been tough, and I don't dwell on the interactions too much. I don't get too overly emotional about it. I do assess it, and I wonder what kind of adjustments I would have to make, or if there's like a particular word that I don't understand, I'll just maybe look it up, or maybe I should have said this, and look up maybe some phrases or sentences that I need to say the next time around when I'm in the same situation. And at first, it's tough. It's very hard because you can't really communicate at all. But after 6 months of living here, when you keep learning and you keep studying the language, like it improves. Like there's an improvement process, and you see yourself gradually getting better with these interactions. And the first you compare it to the first time that I try to order food at like McDonald's or something, or at the 7-Eleven. Now I know some phrases that I can respond to because I've heard those phrases or those questions multiple times. And what once became very uncomfortable has been a bit more comfortable. Now it's like it has been in a zone where it's getting more comfortable and getting more familiar with it. But I wouldn't have gone to that place or that zone if I didn't move here, or if I didn't interact in the first place. And sometimes you could get away with it because you go to like some of these shops or like ramen restaurants, and they have like vending machines, and you could just pick something and not interact at all and say very few words. But sometimes like I just force myself to talk to people, even though there's some awkward moments and I say something very embarrassing, and I definitely had plenty of those. But you get over it, and I don't dwell on it. I don't get overly critical about it. I just know like, oh, I probably should have said this, or I shouldn't have said that. So next time, if I'm in the same scenario, I'll make sure I correct that mistake. And I just keep it pretty technical in that aspect in making that adjustment. But going back to what I'm trying to say with getting out of the comfort zone, me living in a foreign country, that's already uncomfortable in the first place, right off the bat, right? But you get used to the social etiquette. You get used to learning the language, or picking up on certain things or mannerisms, things like that. And what was once very difficult and uncomfortable, becomes a lot more familiar. And it does get to a comfort place. But you do have to go through that grind, or those experiences of discomfort. You have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone to get to that place. And I think that's a great example of me getting out of my comfort zone, moving to an entirely different country with a brand new language that I'm trying to learn. And I still struggle, and I still have those moments where I quite don't understand what they're saying, but I do my best, and I learn from those interactions. And it helps me, it challenges me, and it helps me improve on my language. And it's very humbling too, knowing that okay, I've come a long way and I've improved, but I still got a long way to go. There's some words that I need to understand. I need to memorize more of the kanji and help me read the labels or signs or billboards, whatever, the menu, like all these things. Like, oh, there's still a lot of room for improvement. But it's taking that first step of getting out of your comfort zone that is what's going to take you there. Of possibly me being very familiar, very very comfortable with where I am now, and also being very a lot more comfortable in my interactions, my social interactions, my relationships, the communication aspect. And it challenges me. It shows me like it also reveals like how persistent I am. Like I have to keep studying. I have to be consistent with my studies. And as I look back, oh, I do see, oh, I am improving gradually. Um, and if I want to keep improving, I still got to keep at it and be consistent and still put myself in places of a little discomfort. But yeah, that's what it takes sometimes. And if you really want to grow and challenge yourself and see what you're capable of, sometimes you just have to push yourself and put yourself in uncomfortable situations at times. Uh, and what was once uncomfortable might turn into something that becomes comfortable and that gets very familiar. And you realize, well, you only got to that place because you were able to challenge yourself and push yourself. Um, Whereas if you never done it at all, then maybe you don't really realize your potential or what you are actually capable of doing. And so I wanted to share that with you. I want to encourage you to really challenge yourself and and do things that maybe you're afraid of doing, or maybe you feel like you're not capable of doing this because of maybe some insecurities, or maybe you just don't have that self-belief. But sometimes it just takes that first step of going there um, and being persistent with getting in that uncomfortable zone. And so that is my encouragement. That is my challenge to you, because it has helped me to be much more bolder and much more courageous in some sense, and has made me overall a better person. Um, just not being afraid of those uncomfortable positions or getting out of that comfort zone. So I encourage you to do the same, and just know that you can do it